there came a time when her weight fell too low. It just went a bit too low, and we didn't, at that particular time, there was no point in going on. It was just like, well, look, it's, you know, we've got to draw the line somewhere. I mean, she was, as I say, she was strong enough to do it, but she just didn't look right doing it because her weight was so low. I'm afraid her illness took its toll.
At this time, Lena became obsessed with the idea of living a normal life. She met Peter Wiltshire, a computer consultant who she later married.
Peter's a very straightforward, good person. He was non-showbiz. He was quite attracted by the fact that she had this show business background, but he was the most normal man you could ever hope to meet. She saw that being with Peter was a chance to get what other girls of her age had, which was a life, a husband, a home, everything that she thought was normal.
I think she was robbed of being a woman. Do you understand what I mean by that? She never got a chance to go out with other young girls of her own age, to experience nightlife and what it's like for a guy to come up and chat you up, you know.
She wanted from him, she said that all I want is a lot of hugs and kisses. But she wanted those in a childish way. And that kind of close physical contact was something she steeled herself to do. It wasn't something that she was capable of enjoying, possibly with anyone. She did lose her virginity to him. She talked to me about that. He was her first serious boyfriend of any description. And that in itself was quite sad because she was way past the age when people should have done that, the sexual experimentation, had the boyfriends, had perhaps failed relationships and known what they wanted by the time they got married, and she didn't have any of that experience.
I think in Victor's words, it was a disaster, really.
I wouldn't have expected anybody to put up with it very long because it is very difficult to explain. As I said, you've got to live with an anorexic. And I think Peter he's just had enough, you know. It was.
Lena's marriage lasted only 18 months. It was also about this time that Lena's mother, Hilda, committed suicide. After her divorce, Lena bought a small flat near to her father in Hertfordshire.
She would come down and she would sort of hang her head. And I say, Lena, what's wrong? Oh, Dad, you don't understand. You don't understand. You don't understand about this feeling I've got. I just can't go in much longer, you know. And I would look at her and say, well, Lena, the thing is, Lena, look at your body weight. Your body weight's very low. Don't you think that's what's making you depressed? Dad, it's got nothing to do with that. It's got nothing to do with that at all. This is something else I've got. I says, but Lena, for years, you know, you've been starving yourself, really. I says, surely, I says, how not have a try at eating and try and get your weight up? I am eating. I am. And she might just walk out the door and we'd be left in limbo like, you were left there just, what can I do? There's nothing I can do. There's this girl, my daughter, starving herself to death, and you know, you've just got to stand and look at it. It was soul destroying, absolutely.
I'm only human.
In 1993, Lena made a rare television appearance. She was 27, and by now it was impossible to hide the punishing effect the illness had had on her body.
And all that I am, show me the stairway that I have to climb, Lord, for Only recently I've just been picking up this little book thing, you know, and I've been looking at it, and I looked at the words and I thought, well, they do mean something to somebody who's going through tough times. That if they just could read something like this, like it says, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Shocked by her television appearance, Martha and David visited Lena in her flat. Distressed by how she looked, they persuaded her to return home with them.
She initially was so ill that she would lie on that settee in there, just curled up like a fetus. And she was there for 3 or 4 weeks. She hardly moved from that spot. The first horrendous thing was really her eating habits, which were not very nice at all. She started off initially by taking a tray up to her bedroom. She would eat in the privacy of her room, but she would come and do this 10 or 12 or 14 times a day, because she didn't eat food like other people ate food, with a knife and fork, sit down with a plate or anything. It was little mugs of tea and pieces of dry toast. A piece of toast would last her for 2 hours. She would then suddenly go on a screaming eating binge, and she would then eat us out of house and home. You see that pile of bananas there or something? We'd come down at 2 in the morning. She'd eaten 10 bananas or 4 oranges or 6 apples or half a bread, and you wonder where it went, because there was nothing of her. She was so thin, and she couldn't stop. It was orgasmic. I mean, it was incredible.
Yes.
I had to lift her physically away, kicking and screaming.
Which was horrendous for her, because the pull for the food was so powerful. But of course she wasn't swallowing everything. I mean, she would chew it and take the best of it out, the juices, etc., and the rest of it would go down the plug hole or into the rubbish bin.
She was on taking pills by the handful. They weren't ordinary pills. They were pills that would knock out a horse. A sleeping pill puts people to sleep. With Lena, had the opposite effect. It woke her up.
It sort of felt it was activated that she felt there was some movement in the world, because she used to absolutely feel nothing. There was never any movement. If you know, the sun was shining. She called it static. And everything was grey. And what this tablet did was just activate it, and she felt she could just feel, and she felt as if she was in the world just for those few moments.
Just for a few moments. And this is what one sleeping pill would do, and she would take them by the handful.
Until we found out where she was getting them, where they were coming from. So we put a stop to that.
Martha was like a mum, really, a big sister mum. She was very, very close with her, and they shared a lot of intimacies and talked through for hours and hours and hours and hours. Martha talked to her. I mean, really, she talked her out of this depression.
Lena stayed with David and Martha for a year. She put on weight and even sang with her father at a family New Year celebration. Although she had improved, David and Martha wanted Lena to get professional help.
We saw a programme on television regarding Peggy Claude Pierre from Canada, who had a clinic. We both watched it, and Lena said, "Oh, that will be a waste of time." She said, "It's the same old stuff, being fed up and everything." And I said, "Well, you never know."